Good evening. My name is Kyle Graham, and tonight we'll be discussing predatory pricing. More importantly, cost data that is involved in its role with predatory pricing cases. First of all, we'll need to understand what predatory pricing is. Secondly, we'll want to understand where it comes from, the history of predatory pricing. Then we'll get into the cost data, the complexity of it, and how it's used in predatory pricing cases. Predatory pricing began in the late 1800s, early 1900s with large enterprises and trusts. Basically what it is when a company drives its prices so low that it eliminates all competition within that industry or market. It then, after obtaining a monopoly of the industry, raises prices so high that it hurts consumers, but the company profits in the long run. We see that predatory pricing was being exercised during the time period that I mentioned before. And during this time, the government stepped in with new regulation, more particular the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890. Specifically, Section 2 talks about and does away with any monopolization, any intent that a company would have to monopolize an industry. And predatory pricing does just that. So the question is this good or bad? It's been a struggle all along. Many free market enthusiasts say that predatory pricing is just another way for the company to strategize and be successful. It encourages industrialization, it encourages innovation, but on the flip side, others say that it hurts consumers in the long run and is damaging to the economy. So where does cost data fit into this predatory pricing? Well, in any case in predatory pricing, what's brought to the table is the intent of the company and then evidence that the company was exercising practices of predatory pricing. So we need to see how that's done. It's a long time coming, but there's a theory that if prices are below marginal cost, or the cost to produce one more good, then essentially the company is practicing predatory pricing. And so that's where cost data comes into play. If we can see that a company is in fact lowering their prices below marginal cost, they can be convicted and be guilty of this predatory pricing. If not, then they're not. They're a great company with low prices that's beating their competitors. And so we see that there's a threshold that needs to be had, and then there needs to be proof that that is the case. And this is hard to do. It's complex. There's many things and variables that go into cost data. Variable costs and fixed costs are sometimes often confused, and they can be argued that maybe one cost is fixed and one's variable, and that will affect cost data. It's also very hard to estimate in the court or a case that a company has a set specific lease costs or variable equipment leases, or for example, those are a few. And so when a company tries to bring suit against another in predatory pricing case, as we see is the case with Thales versus Matsushita. Now these companies were in the airline entertainment industry, the TVs or consoles in the seats in an airplane. Now Thales basically brought suit against Matsushita for predatory pricing. Thales brought the case before the court, and it was decided that Thales had not brought to the table evidence of cost data which proved that Matsushita was guilty of predatory pricing. It's complex. The judge was very educated in the matter, and he essentially decided that Thales' cost analysis or accountant had failed in his duty to to show predatory pricing. In conclusion, we see that predatory pricing is something that is used, a tactic to monopolize an industry. It violates the Anti-Sherman Act, the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890, and more specifically Section 2 of that Act. We see it's very complex to be able to convict a company of this violation. And data cost is important. It's the only way to convict a company in predatory pricing cases, but we see that the judge needs to be educated, that people who present the cost data need to show a strong case in which strong estimates are used and shows strong evidence that the company is in fact using predatory pricing. Thank you for your time.